it is becoming more and more clear as you listen to Sam Pittman, as you listen to some reporters up there in Fayetteville, that KJ Jefferson is hurt. He's banged up, and he's given it a go on game days. He didn't practice at all last week, went out there and played in the game, and quite frankly, it wasn't very pretty. He was 23 of 37 in the game against Liberty, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, ran it 16 times for 36 yards. They had 5 points in the third quarter at one point, I think. It just didn't look very good. He's a good player. He had great numbers last year. He's big and strong, and he's good at short yardage situations. Doesn't generally turn the ball over. Only had 1 interception on the season going into last week. But he's just, at this point in the season, there are just guys on the roster that are held together with duct tape right now, and it feels like he's one of them.
Yeah, that's the last thing you want to be dealing with, especially when you get to this part of the SEC schedule. You got to play this team this week, this team next week, and it adds up if you're not really at peak form right now. And I think for KJ, you're starting to see the injuries really pile up and affect his play. A lot of guys can kind of power through. You don't even know they're dealing with something, but for him, he's laboring. It's not the same guy you kind of saw last season and for some stretches this year when he can use just like he's a load. I thought he was Cam Newton at some points watching those early season highlights, but it's not that same guy right now. So I think it puts so much pressure on Rocket Sanders to have one of those 200 yards, Darren McFadden type days. And if you kind of slow that down, the receivers on the outside aren't really to the level that you should probably fear if you're the secondary for LSU who's been playing well. And also when they're not getting those guys, open and scoring those easy points, I just think this team can give up pressure to KJ, and him taking more hits to this point in the season is definitely a recipe I think LSU's got to venture down and want to attack early in this football game.
That's the thing. He can't be effective without getting hit. That's part of his game, is being a physical running presence with the read option game. You go back to the opener against Cincinnati, he runs it 18 times for 62 yards. You go back to the South Carolina game, 19 carries for 67 yards. You go to the game in Dallas against Texas A&M, 18 carries for 105 yards. He ran for a touchdown in all their first 4 games, and he did have 2 rushing touchdowns against Auburn, and it's not like he's not capable at all, but if he's hurt, you don't really want to run him. And if you don't run him, you're taking away one of his best abilities. So it's a tough spot for Kendall Brown, Sam Pittman in that offense. And their backup option is Malik Hornsby, who's a redshirt sophomore. He got to go against Mississippi State when KJ was out with the concussion. And quite frankly, it went horribly. He played at Mississippi State, 8 of 17 for 234, which is a lot for 8 completions. But he had 2 interceptions in the game. He did run for 114 yards. He's really fast. He's athletic. You turn on the highlights from that game. He can move. He's not a very good thrower at all, and he's a poor decision maker at that. So they're a significant step down if you put Malik Hornsby in the game.
Yeah, and I think for this secondary, it's a breath of fresh air when you just had to deal with 60 minutes of Bryce Young, and then now you're dealing with a banged-up quarterback who really can't move to the level that you've seen him to, and a quarterback who's not nearly the passer Bryce Young is right now.
That's saying it.
Yeah. So I think, looking at this, Matt House secondary and defense that he does, I think a lot of the stuff he did, all season long is going to give both of these guys trouble, especially if they can't live in 3rd and short, kind of how you saw Tennessee do against this LSU defense. If they are forced to be in 3rd and long situations, I just think these cornerbacks match up extremely well with their wideouts, and we kind of know what Harold Perkins is, getting after the passer. If you put the backup in, spy him, then now that avenue's taken away, and I think B.J. Ojolari's been kind of playing as advertised this season. So I think, looking at the front and kind of looking at the game plan, I think it's kind of been pushed down to everyone's throat all week, but I think you'll see it on full display. If LSU can slow down this rushing attack, their odds are going to go exponentially out the window, because I just don't think their passing attack is dangerous enough to really put pressure on the secondary.
It's such a weapon to have Perkins here. It's not as simple as, hey, Harold, just go wherever KJ goes, but a lot of times, hey, Harold, just go wherever KJ goes. And it's just when you've got a quarterback who's got the ability to look down the field, then tuck it and go run, and you can almost completely take that. I mean, how many times on Saturday night did we see Bryce Young look to extend a play or get somewhere, and right when he leaves the pocket, that first step, I mean, it's cliche, but it shot out of a cannon. Here comes 40. You don't have time to do anything else. The closing speed and the instincts are not teachable, and he's got them in spades. And so if you limit KJ Jefferson to sitting there in the pocket throwing to outman wide receivers in 35-degree temperatures, that doesn't sound like 40 points to me.
No, I don't think so at all. And I think the over-under was in the 60s right now. I don't know. That's a little high for me. I have to check that out. But, yeah, I just think, especially looking at the Liberty secondary, like I know, got the fighting Hugh Freeze. He's dialing them up with the best of them. But I'm going to take our pass rush. I'm going to take our secondary over anything that they have over there. And I think for LSU, like, it's really going to be just how you come out and play in this football game. I think you're playing a lot better brand of football over these past 3 weeks than what we've kind of seen from Arkansas. And if you can kind of, poke the bear where these other teams have done it who don't have the level of talent you have, I think you'll be in position to kind of do what you want to do offensively and defensively. And you can do that, then, our chances of getting that SEC title signed, sealed, delivered, baby.
You look at the game against Liberty and you look at the box score, and Arkansas committed to the run. They ran it 42 times. They just weren't necessarily really effective. Rocket Sanders, 17 carries for only 60 yards, 3.5 yards per carry. Arkansas only ran it for 3.4 yards per carry against an outman Liberty defense. So if this is, to me, when it would be really fun to be, LSU, Matt House, Noah Kane, Jamar Kane, anybody on the LSU defense, be like, look, guys up front, this is pretty simple.
Mm-hmm.
If you do your job and kick their tail at the line of scrimmage, this game is over. Yeah. It is over. Because if they can't impose their will running the football on you with the quarterback and Rocket Sanders, they don't have another pitch. They got a 96-mile-an-hour fastball, and that's what's coming. And if you can hit it, that's it.
Yeah, no, that's exactly. And I think you really just still the Ole Miss game plan. You kind of saw that Ole Miss offense early on, dialing up, going off the field. But when you kind of got to the meat and bones of that game, they had to get their run game going. You shut that down. And then now Perkins is getting after the quarterback. Now you can dial up some of the exotic blitzes that Matt House has in this defense. And I think for Arkansas, kind of just watching the way they played this season, it's not that same team, that 9-1 team from last year. And I think missing Traylon Burks is hurting this offense a ton, because now when you do stack the box and you get those guaranteed one-on-one matchups on the outside, they don't have the guy that can catch a ball and go for 6 and really put pressure on your secondary. And when you don't have that, you become one-dimensional, like you said, with the 96-mile-per-hour fastball. And I think that's playing right up LSU's alley. Thanks so much for watching Hunt Hill on YouTube.
Now do us a favor. Hit the red subscribe button below and throw us a like. We'll see you next time.